Listen.
Can I invite John?
You can invite whomever you want to.
Now answer. Can I marry Bill?
You can marry whomever you want to. Can I date Anne?
You can date whomever you want to. Can I bring Joe?
You can bring whomever you want to. Can I invite the Browns?
You can invite whomever you want to. Can I tease James?
You can tease whomever you want to. Can I hug the children?
You can hug whomever you want to.
Example. Listen.
Can Mary come over tomorrow?
She can come over whenever she likes.
Now answer. Can my parents come over on Friday?
They can come over whenever they like.
Can Paul leave this afternoon?
He can leave whenever he likes.
Can they come back next summer?
They can come back whenever they like.
Can we stay over this weekend?
You can stay over whenever you like.
Can they stop by this evening?
They can stop by whenever they like.
Example. Listen.
When do you go to the beach?
I go to the beach whenever I can.
Now, answer. When do you work out?
I work out whenever I can.
When do you go out?
I go out whenever I can.
When do you go away for the weekend?
I go away for the weekend whenever I can.
When do you have your hair trimmed?
I have my hair trimmed whenever I can.
When do you work overtime?
I work overtime whenever I can.
When does your mother-in-law bother you?
My mother-in-law bothers me whenever she can.
When does your boyfriend bug you?
My boyfriend bugs me whenever he can.
Repeat. He goes wherever his company sends him. He's well received wherever he goes. He's ignored wherever he goes. He's hated wherever he lives. He's fired wherever he works. Example. Listen.
He shouldn't eat so much.
He shouldn't eat so much, should he?
Now answer. He shouldn't drink so much.
He shouldn't drink so much, should he?
He shouldn't curse so much.
He shouldn't curse so much, should he?
He shouldn't swear so much.
He shouldn't swear so much, should he?
He shouldn't smoke so much.
He shouldn't smoke so much, should he?
He shouldn't gossip so much.
He shouldn't gossip so much, should he?
He shouldn't shout so much.
He shouldn't shout so much, should he?
Repeat. She shouldn't shout so much or she'll get hoarse. She shouldn't drink so much or she'll get drunk. She shouldn't smoke so much or she'll get sick. She shouldn't gossip so much or she'll get fired.
Example. Listen.
He shouldn't eat so much, should he?
No, he shouldn't, but he used to eat much more.
Now answer. He shouldn't drink so much, should he?
No, he shouldn't, but he used to drink much more.
He shouldn't curse so much, should he?
No, he shouldn't, but he used to curse much more.
He shouldn't swear so much, should he?
No, he shouldn't, but he used to swear much more.
She shouldn't smoke so much, should she?
No, she shouldn't, but she used to smoke much more.
She shouldn't gossip so much, should she?
No, she shouldn't, but she used to gossip much more.
She shouldn't shout so much, should she?
No, she shouldn't, but she used to shout much more.
Repeat.
Adequate, inadequate. Capable, incapable. Complete, incomplete. Considerate, inconsiderate. Consistent, inconsistent. Convenient, inconvenient. Correct, incorrect. Decent, indecent. Direct, indirect. Efficient, inefficient, expensive, inexpensive, formal, informal, human, inhuman, secure, insecure, visible, invisible.
Repeat. Partial, impartial, patient, impatient, perfect, imperfect, pertinent, impertinent, possible, impossible, polite, impolite. Listening exercise. 35, fun. 36, track. 37, rag. 38, hug. 39, dad. 40, bug. 41, bus. 42, crash. 43, brunch. 44, ma'am. 45, mad. 46, bad. 47, cub. 48, luck. 49, ankle. 50, brush. 51, rung. 52, match. 53, drag. 54, mud. This is the end of Lesson 8.
Lesson 9. Example. Listen.
It's too hot. I'm uncomfortable. Take a shower.
You should take a shower. Now substitute.
It's my aunt's birthday. Visit.
You should visit your aunt.
My closet is messy. Tidy.
You should tidy your closet.
My mother is really bushed. Help.
You should help your mother.
The homework is very important. Do.
You should do your homework.
The grammar book is really helpful. Buy.
You should buy the grammar book.
I'm completely broke. Work overtime.
You should work overtime.
These sneakers are smelly. Wash.
You should wash your sneakers.
Example. Listen.
You should wear sunscreen when you go outside.
You ought to wear sunscreen when you go outside.
Now substitute. You should put on a hat when you're out in the sun.
You ought to put on a hat when you're out in the sun.
You should protect yourself from the sun.
You ought to protect yourself from the sun.
You should enjoy being in the sun without taking any risks.
You ought to enjoy being in the sun without taking any risks.
You should wear a shirt when you work in the garden.
You ought to wear a shirt when you work in the garden.
You should protect yourself when you sit by the pool.
You ought to protect yourself when you sit by the pool.
Example. Listen.
Mary's grades are terrible. She ought to study. Bought a good grammar book.
She would study if she bought a good grammar book.
Now substitute. I'm very dirty. I ought to take a shower. Could use the bathroom.
I would take a shower if I could use the bathroom.
It's my aunt's birthday. I ought to buy her a gift. Had cash.
I would buy her a gift if I had cash.
It's my cousin's birthday. I ought to give her a present. Weren't broke.
I would give her a present if I weren't broke.
My closet is messy. I ought to tidy it. Weren't bushed.
I would tidy it if I weren't bushed.
The homework is very important. I ought to do it. Knew how to.
I would do it if I knew how to.
I'm completely broke. I ought to work overtime. The boss allowed me to.
I would work overtime if the boss allowed me to. Repeat. How gross. Bill shouldn't be burping in the elevator. How gross. Jane shouldn't be brushing her hair at the table. How. How gross. Richard shouldn't be blowing his nose at the table. How gross. That boy shouldn't be flossing his teeth on the street. How gross. That boy shouldn't be picking his nose at the table. How gross! That old man shouldn't be taking out his false teeth at the table.
Example, listen.
They ought to study if they want to pass.
They should study if they want to pass.
Now substitute. They ought to study hard if they don't want to flunk the test.
They should study hard if they don't want to flunk the test.
They ought to walk the dog if they don't want to be grounded.
They should walk the dog if they don't want to be grounded.
They ought to hurry up if they don't want to be late.
They should hurry up if they don't want to be late.
They ought to hurry up if they want to get there on time.
They should hurry up if they want to get there on time.
They ought to get a job if they want to make money.
They should get a job if they want to make money.
They ought to spend less if they want to save money.
They should spend less if they want to save money.
They ought to refurbish the apartment if they want to sell it.
They should refurbish the apartment if they want to sell it. Dialogue. Listen.
Have the workers finished the job?
No, I'm afraid not. Nothing was done.
But why not? It was supposed to have been completed by Saturday.
Yes, I know, but there isn't very much that can be done about it. The work wasn't finished because the employees went on strike.
But why on earth would they do a thing like that? Aren't they well paid?
Oh, yes. They don't deny it, but they say they have to obey the union.
But when will the work be finished?
I don't know. They won't do anything until the strike is called off.
How long has the strike been on?
Today is the 5th day. If we hadn't lost those days, the work would have been finished by now.
Well, let's wait and see what happens.
If the strike is over this week, the job will be completed by the middle of next week.
Now repeat. Have the workers finished the job?
No, I'm afraid not. Nothing was done.
But why not? It was supposed to have been completed by Saturday.
Yes, I know, but there isn't very much that can be done about it. The work wasn't finished because the employees went on strike.
But why on earth would they do a thing like that? Aren't they well paid?
Oh, yes, they don't deny it, but they say they have to obey the union.
But when will the work be finished?
I don't know. They won't do anything until the strike is called off.
How long has the strike been on?
Today is the 5th day. If we hadn't lost those days, the work would have been finished by now.
Well, let's wait and see what happens.
If the strike is over this week, the job will be completed by the middle of next week. Reading comprehension. Call it the blessing of oil. In a recent study, Merrill Lynch reported that the number of Middle Eastern households worth more than $1 million has grown by 9.5% since last year. The authors also cut their forecast for the growth rate in total wealth held by households in Asia, North America, and Europe, but tripled their forecast for the Middle East. They now expect Middle Eastern family-held fortunes to rise by 9.1% over the next 4 years to a total of $1.5 trillion. Answer true or false. 1. The number of households worth more than $1 million is growing in the Middle East. 2. The number of households worth more than $1 million has grown by almost 10% since last year. 3. The growth rate in total wealth has tripled in North America and Europe. 4. In the next few years, family-held fortunes should rise to about $1.5 trillion in the Middle East.
The correct answers are 1. True. 2. True. 3. False. 4. True. This is the end of Lesson 9.
Lesson 10. Repeat. The economist had his secretary pay the bills. The union had the workers go on strike. The doctor had the nurse give the patient an injection. Roger had his partner cancel the deal. The father had his daughter give back the kitten. Robert had the flight attendant explain the safety precautions.
Repeat. I'm getting my husband to remodel the house. I'll get my boyfriend to take me to dinner. I'd get my father to lend me the money if I needed it. The officer made the thief return the money to the old lady. The mother made the children go to bed early. She's making the office boy go to the bank.
Repeat.
I had to go to the bank, but I forgot.
You should have gone to the bank.
I had to pay the bill, but I forgot.
You should have paid the bill.
I had to go to the dentist, but I forgot.
You should have gone to the dentist.
I had to buy the tickets, but I forgot.
You should have bought the tickets.
I had to phone the office, but I forgot.
You should have phoned the office.
Repeat. I shouldn't have slept so much, but I did. You shouldn't have eaten so much, but you did. He shouldn't have smoked so much, but he did. We shouldn't have talked so much, but we did. They shouldn't have drunk so much, but they did.
Repeat. He should have stopped pinching his sister, but he didn't. He should have stopped yelling in class, but he didn't. He should have stopped yawning in class, but he didn't. He should have stopped cursing, but he didn't. He should have stopped swearing, but he didn't.
Example. Listen. He should have studied harder for the test. He failed it.
He wishes he had studied harder for the test.
He shouldn't have parked there. He got a ticket.
He wishes he hadn't parked there.
Now substitute. He should have invited Mary. She got upset.
He wishes he had invited Mary.
He shouldn't have invited Jane. She's a bore.
He wishes he hadn't invited Jane.
He shouldn't have arrived late for class. The teacher got angry.
He wishes he hadn't arrived late for class.
He should have called the doctor. He had a heart attack.
He wishes he had called the doctor.
He shouldn't have bought that second-hand car. It was awful.
He wishes he hadn't bought that second-hand car.
He shouldn't have bought that brand-new car. It cost a fortune.
He wishes he hadn't bought that brand-new car.
Comprehension. Listen. The luxury first crowd will soon have the Global 5000, the latest plane from Bombardier, a Montreal-based manufacturer. The Global 5000, 4 of which are expected to be in service by the end of July for $35 million apiece, has been likened to a flying yacht. Its galley, larger than that of any other aircraft in its class, can be outfitted to serve 2 5-course meals. With a top cruise speed of Mach 0.89, the Global 5000 isn't slow. But Ariane, a jet maker in Reno, Nevada, is betting that it's not fast enough for some busy bigwigs. The firm is planning to build the first business jet that can breach the sound barrier. It has invented a new type of wing that is efficient at both super and subsonic speeds, so the plane could go subsonic over the United States and supersonic elsewhere. The technology will boost the price of the plane to a whopping $80 million, but in a global economy, Ariane thinks it can find enough executives willing to sign off on the expense. The company expects to sell as many as 260 planes in its first 10 years of production, according to spokesman Jeff Miller. Those would be friendly skies indeed.
Answer true or false. 18. The plane is called the Global 5000 because it costs $50 million. 19. In August, 4 of the planes should be flying. 20. The 4 planes will be sold for a total of $35 million. 21. The top cruise speed of the Global 5000 is under Mach 1. 22. Ariane's new jet will be slower than the Global 5000. 23. The price of Ariane's new jet will be more than double that of the Global 5000. 24. Ariane expects to sell 260 planes in its first year of production. The correct answers are 18, false, 19, true, 20, false, 21, true, 22, false, 23, true, 24, false.
This is the end of Lesson 10. Lesson 11. Repeat. I didn't know that. He said he didn't know that. He said he couldn't come. Why shouldn't they go? I wouldn't go if I were you. I wouldn't have gone if I were you. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. He said you shouldn't have done that.
Example. Listen.
He's chubby, but he keeps on eating.
Although he's chubby, he keeps on eating. Now substitute.
He's retired, but he keeps on working 24/7.
Although he's retired, he keeps on working 24/7.
She's broke, but she keeps on spending.
Although she's broke, she keeps on spending.
She's exhausted, but she keeps on working out.
Although she's exhausted, she keeps on working out.
He's in therapy, but he keeps on drinking.
Although he's in therapy, he keeps on drinking.
He's married, but he keeps on hitting on girls.
Although he's married, he keeps on hitting on girls.
Repeat. In spite of leaving home late, she arrived on time. In spite of being married, she had a lover. In spite of losing money, she had a good time. In spite of playing badly, she wins the games. In spite of driving fast, she always shows up late. In spite of being religious, she curses whenever she's mad. In spite of being a crook, everybody is fond of him.
Dialogue. Listen.
Where are you going?
I'm going to the American Consulate Library. I'd like to take a look at the American College Directory. Wouldn't you like to come along?
Yeah, sure. You know, I'd love to apply for a postgrad scholarship abroad, but I want to get my degree here first.
I guess it must be pretty hard to get a scholarship for postgraduate work in the States.
It's tough. Plus, your TOEFL score has got to be good.
What are the chances of getting into one of the top schools for undergraduate work?
Well, it depends on your high school transcripts. I realize my grades just aren't good enough. I wouldn't be accepted by any of the top schools. I'd just like to enroll in a decent school, improve my English, and experience another lifestyle.
Sounds good. Let's get over to the consulate and check it out.
Repeat. Where are you going?
I'm going to the American Consulate Library. I'd like to take a look at the American College Directory. Wouldn't you like to come along?
Yeah, sure. You know, I'd love to apply for a postgrad scholarship abroad, but I want to get my degree here first.
I guess it must be pretty hard to get a scholarship for postgraduate work in the States.
It's tough. Plus, your TOEFL score has got to be good.
What are the chances of getting into one of the top schools for undergraduate work?
Well, it depends on your high school transcripts. I realize my grades just aren't good enough. I wouldn't be accepted by any of the top schools. I'd just like to enroll in a decent school, improve my English, and experience another lifestyle.
Sounds good. Let's get over to the consulate and check it out.
Listen, New York City, popularly known as the Big Apple, comprises the 5 boroughs or districts of Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Most visitors are solely interested in Manhattan, as it has so much to offer in the areas of art, music, culture, and entertainment. New York has always been a melting pot of people of many races, religions, and nationalities who have gone there in search of better opportunities. Their influence is obvious in the many international restaurants and shops throughout the city. A trip to New York can be as interesting as a quick trip around the world. Broadway, New York's theater district, has about 30 theaters which offer a wide variety of plays, musicals, and shows, starring world-famous actors and actresses. Some popular shows have stayed on Broadway for over 5 years. Off-Broadway theaters are also professional, but they are smaller, operate on lower budgets, and feature new and experimental plays, as well as revivals of old classics. Off-Broadway theaters are scattered throughout the city in places usually accommodating no more than 100 people. Their productions tend to be radical experimentations using untraditional techniques. Off-Broadway plays are produced in over 50 theaters around the city. All the latest American and foreign movies are shown in over 60 cinemas in Manhattan alone. Old films and cult movies have a strong following of viewers too. At one time, most of the city's movie theaters were concentrated in the Times Square area, but today the movie fan will find theaters located throughout the city. An evening at the movies can be expensive, and one should be prepared to stand in long lines to see the newest releases. So many types of entertainment exist in New York that almost anyone's taste can be satisfied. If one wishes to hear classical music, there are many programs offered at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and other music halls. The New York Philharmonic and visiting orchestras give concerts all year round. The opera buff can choose from a number of productions by the Metropolitan Opera and the New York City Opera, as well as by a number of smaller companies. Professional ballet companies, such as the New York City Ballet, are also very popular. Countless numbers of chamber concerts and recitals are performed daily in music halls, universities, and churches. A visit to Lincoln Center is not to be missed by those interested in music and ballet, as well as in architecture. Jazz, blues, rock, folk, country, and popular music are performed in various clubs and concert halls around the city. Free concerts and theatrical productions are often given in Central Park and in city squares. There are also a great number of puppet shows, plays, and musical programs produced especially for children. Art or museum enthusiasts will find almost every art form exhibited in the numerous museums and galleries. Besides having permanent collections of paintings and sculpture, the Metropolitan, Whitney, Frick, and MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, host visiting exhibitions of various artists. World-famous as well as relatively unknown artists use the vast number of art galleries to show and sell their work. Sidewalk art shows are not uncommon on the streets of the village and in other areas of town. The Museum of Natural History and Hayden Planetarium have many scientific and cultural exhibits, in addition to being popular destinations for high school field trips. In reality, these are only a few of the attractions New York has to offer. One could write forever about New York's parks, restaurants, sporting events, shopping opportunities, and tourist attractions. New York is a city of the world, and it has a world of attractions to be enjoyed.
This is the end of Lesson 11.
Lesson 12. Repeat. There was an awful accident last night. There were many victims. There were lots of injured children. There have been many earthquakes in Asia. There will be many tornadoes in the summer. There may be some hurricanes this fall. There should be a way of warning people. There must be federal help. There's got to be a way of helping the victims.
Repeat. There should be a nice restaurant in the area. There must be good Italian restaurants in Little Italy. There must be other places to visit. There must be other tours to take. There must be other museums to see. There must be other out-of-towners that you've met. There must be other cruises that you've taken. There must be other diners that you've been to. There must be other stores that you've shopped at.
Dialogue. Listen.
There's so much to see and do in New York that I don't know where to begin. I've heard that the Guggenheim has great exhibits, but the Museum of Modern Art is only a couple of blocks away.
If you think you're confused, what about me? The New York Times has over 30 Broadway shows listed, plus another dozen off-Broadway. There are comedies, musicals, and dramas. What a decision.
Why don't you take a look at some reviews? Besides the newspapers, there are weekly magazines with lots of information on the arts.
That's it. We still have time to make a matinee since we're already in the theater district. Let's find a newsstand and choose a show. Then we can try to buy tickets at the discount booth in Times Square.
Hey, wait a minute. Didn't we decide to go to a museum? We've got lots of time for plays. Besides, I'm too excited to sit through an entire performance.
Well, we're not going to settle on anything this way. Why don't we go up to Central Park and talk about it while we feed the pigeons?
All right, let's go. Repeat. There's so much to see and do in New York that I don't know where to begin. I've heard that the Guggenheim has great exhibits, but the Museum of Modern Art is only a couple of blocks away.
If you think you're confused, what about me? The New York Times has over 30 Broadway shows listed, plus another dozen off-Broadway. There are comedies, musicals, and dramas. What a decision.
Why don't you take a look at some reviews? Besides the newspapers, there are weekly magazines with lots of information on the arts.
That's it. We still have time to make a matinee since we're already in the theater district. Let's find a newsstand and choose a show. Then we can try to buy tickets at the discount booth in Times Square.
Hey, wait a minute. Didn't we decide to go to a museum?